Cast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Claire Camus. I'm welcoming you to the Winter Outlook of ENTSOG and ENTSO-E reports. We will give you first a series of instructions or information about how the webinar is going to be handled. As you can see from the first slide, I'm joined by my colleagues from ENTSO-E, Alban Joyot and Lucas Galdicas. And then from the ENTSOG side, I've got Jacques Reberol, Natalia Romero. So if we move to the next slides. So after this word of introduction, we will deep dive in the winter supply outlook of ENTSOG, then go to the winter outlook of ENTSO-E. Then we will break for 5 minutes to take your questions. You are allowed to send us questions via the tool in writing, and we will monitor them during the presentations, but we will also break for 5 minutes at the end of the presentations to allow you to feed in more questions. And then we will have a conclusion and next steps. Next slides. So in general, what do the outlooks tell you? As we are pan-European organizations, associations, we look at the role of interconnections, be it gas or electricity interconnections, and their roles in supporting the security of supply in Europe. We look at the influence of external factors on our networks, being the weather conditions, the market conditions, how consumers behave. And then we have a specific sensitivity analysis where we look at severe cases scenarios, 1 out of 20 years, and we see how system reacts. Then we also look at the previous season, in this case summer, so we gain deeper understanding about how the networks are behaving, and we improve also on our outlooks. So next slides. So without further ado, I will pass on the word to my colleagues from ENTSOG about the winter supply outlook.
Good afternoon, everybody. So Jacques Reberol from ENTSOG. I'm modeling subject manager from at ENTSOG. So for the winter review 2017-2018, what we observed for the last winter that we were in an extreme cold event in February and March. So the gas infrastructure, the behavior of the gas infrastructure was able to satisfy the demand, but some 4 countries in Europe declared an early warning situation on the gas sector to manage to cope, but the gas sector managed to cope with this belated cold spell, showing robustness and flexibility. But you can see on the graph on the left the EGS stock levels that we had the lowest level of the storages in Europe, and the difference between the last season was about 190 terawatt. So what we can observe here for the when we analyze the last winter, that we use storages as much as we can, and the use of EGS utilization was 71% in the last winter. For power generation, if we compare the last winter with the other winters, the share of gas in the generation of electricity has slightly decreased in the last 2 years from 20% to 90%. So we can consider that it is stable than the last season. Next slide. Okay. Okay, so for the winter supply outlook 2018 and 2019, I want to share with you the different assumptions of this winter supply outlook. We consider the reference winter with a 1 in 2 year demand and national production as foreseen. 30% is the target of US inventory level on 1st April. And for the supplies, we consider flex based on the last 5 years history. For the cold winter, we take the highest demand since 2009-10, and as for the security of supply simulations. And for LNG, we take the flex based on levels since 2009 and 10. And for the assessment for the simulations, we consider 2 high demand cases: the demand design case, which is for 1 day, on a 2-week cold spell period. And of course, we consider two different models: one for high quality gas, and for the lower quality gas, L-gas zones, which are modeled for France, Belgium, Germany, and Netherlands. And for the supply situation, the level we take the level of storage at the 1st October, which is in the average of the last 5 years. Can you come back? Yeah, thank you. So the indigenous production keeps on decreasing in the large parts of Europe. So in the graph, in the maps here, you have the level of different storages. So next slide, you have the different results of the winter supply outlook in 2018-2019. What we consider when we can observe that for 1-2 year winter, first 30% of the UGS target is achievable in normal winter. For a cold winter, situation further rejection is necessary. So flexibility answered by UGS and high LNG supply, and the European Union storage level on 1st April could drop under 24% without storage refill in October, even lower in high energy supplies that not materialized. So the European gas infrastructure offers sufficient flexibility across the season and can supply European Union neighboring countries with significant volumes of gas. Security of supply remains a point of attention today and in the future. So the report also indicates that the European gas system offers enough flexibility in the northwest Europe to satisfy an increase in gas demand for power generation. And you have on the right corner the demand and the supply curves of gas for the period of the winter period. Next slide. We can consider the high demand situation for 2-week period and an Ukrainian transit disruption for a 2-week period too. For high demand situation, we can observe no demand curtailment, but only for Finland. We still show that a low remaining flexibility below 20% for Finland. And in a case of Ukrainian transit disruptions, Romania and Bulgaria, and the last country is Fyrom, can show a demand curtailment about higher than 25% for Bulgaria and Fyrom, and between 10 and 25% for Romania. So, but we can say that also all export to Ukraine are maintained by the other country in Europe. So thank you for attention.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lucas Kaldikas, and I will talk today on the findings of ENTSO-E's winter outlook. And first of all, as a link between the gas and electricity outlooks, I would like to mention that the coordinated assessment found out that even with the gas supply disruptions, there would be no endangered risk to secure electricity supply in Europe. Said that, I would like to display a whole range of the studies performed to assess risks, and they are designed for different time frames. So first of all, starting with the studies are made by regional security coordinators, and they assess week ahead risks. Then it is our study which assesses the risks for the coming season, which may help to help to optimize the maintenances on the regional or pan-European level. Further on, a midterm adequacy forecast is performed to support decisions today for generation investments, such as gas, wind units, for the coming 5 to 10 years ahead. And last but not least, there are long-term studies performed, such as 10-year network development plans, who should support decision-making for the heavy infrastructure construction and draft some major policy decisions. So today we'll focus once again, just to remind you, on the seasonal outlook findings. Seasonal outlooks are a stepwise approach where we first of all collect all the inputs from the TSO. So for the example of the planned maintenance in the system, including generation and network, which affects the available interconnections. And also we employ a pan-European databases which ensure that used data is consistent on a pan-European scale. Such information includes, for example, climate data, which affects, which may affect the demand values and so on. So having this information, we perform a European constraining analysis on European constraining scenarios, which are defined for the upward regulation, upward adequacy, which is defined as a typical Wednesday 7 p.m. This moment is a synchronous peak moment on a pan-European level, meaning that it has the highest residual load on a pan-European scale. Further on, additional studies performed for a downward regulation, and 2 references are identified as Sunday 5 a.m. when it's very early in the morning and demand is very low. However, wind generation can be high. And as well, there is another reference point in time, which is Sundays 11 a.m. when the demand is also quite low, but we have also some solar generation in feed. Having this results, we proceed to the more focused analysis on the weeks flagged at risk. So by this, we implement a probabilistic approach with numerous situations, considering different possible scenarios of temperature, wind generation, solar generation, and we try to assess the risk of adequacy issues. And also, what we try to identify is the key drivers for those risks. So when we analyze the situation, we try to assess the available margin, and all our results identify either there is a lack of margin or no, but this only considers the balance in day-ahead markets. So if the risk is identified in our study, that doesn't mean any load shedding yet, or neither a blackout. This only indicates if some partial demand might be affected. However, before any demand is affected, there are intraday list of intraday measures which can be employed to avoid any load shedding, and the situation could be solved either by the strategic reserves or any out of the market demand side response, or it could be also exceptional measures on the network, like voltage regulation to avoid any load shedding, and the situation could be maintained within a safe safety margins and secure demand supply. What we did at the first place, we just analyzed what was the evolution of Europe's generation mix, comparing data used for the last study, last winter study, so winter 2017 and 2018, and we compared it with the winter 2018-2019. What we noticed was that two key points is, first of all, gas power plant capacity has increased after a fall recorded last winter, which was rather exceptional. After a couple of winters noticed with an increase. So it is back to a typical trend. And the second point which we noticed is that the new RES installation has accelerated, and now it has increased by 10 gigawatts. So this is a significant change in the landscape of European generation mix. However, renewable energy generation is it's not a firm generation, so this has to be beared in mind. Further on, what we have considered in our studies was that the unforeseen, the maintenance and delays announced in September and dedicated countermeasures we managed to consider in our study, though they were announced quite late for our study, but the results considers the impact of those. Further on, summer was marked with quite high temperatures, and inflows were, let's say, quite reasonable. So hydro reservoir levels has recovered and has managed to reach the near average values in Europe, while in Italy it's actually in very recent weeks the inflows has raised, but nevertheless they're near average as well. Further on, high temperatures also affected system operations, electricity supply in the summer, and due to some incidents in the network, some consumers were affected and experienced very short electricity supply disruptions. Nevertheless, for this winter, we have to bear in mind that the river levels are very low after this hot summer in South Germany, specifically in the rivers Rhine and Neckar, which can impact the resource and measure for the grid management availability in Germany. Keeping this context in mind, we can proceed to the results of winter outlook under severe conditions, which are giving the results of this stress test depicting 1 in 20 years situation. Further on, it analyzes the adequacy at the pan-European synchronous peak demand time. In some countries, it could be a bit worse situation on the national level, but they are observing this situation. And as I mentioned, the week ahead, the QSE also notices the situation. So this is a picture on the pan-European level. And further on, once again, it's very important to mention that out-of-the-market measures are excluded, which could be used in an intraday phase to solve any potential adequacy issues, and situation could be maintained. So now focusing on the figure on the left, which indicates our results, we can see that under this rather stress test, there could be some potential risk at the beginning of 2019 in weeks 1 to 9. What has to be noted that in case of these situations, it is observed that interconnectors to the regions get congested, and actually resources outside of the region that the problem cannot reach. The consumers needing it. Further on, it also means that this lack of margin could be shared with the countries within the region, and as well the remedial actions as out of the market measures could be also activated in different countries, which imposes that there is always a need of solidarity between the neighboring TSOs and countries to help each other under the severe conditions. Focusing now only on by analyzing these results, what we noticed is that the week 3 is the most constraining, having the lowest remaining margin, and also affecting largest scope or geographical scope. So most of the countries are affected in week 3. For the other weeks, the situation is similar, but to smaller extent. So the situation in the probabilistic assessment is performed for week 3, and then the rest is considered that should be in the lower extent. So our results of probabilistic assessment on the week 3 indicates that adequacy risk on a pan-European level reaches around 3% for the season. Of course, this indicates only on a typical Wednesday, and actual probability could be higher if we would consider this for all the weeks as being similar in all weeks. And we still identify some risk in specific individual countries. So starting with the Belgium, we see that the risk exists in a case when the temperatures and wind are very low, meaning that if the wind conditions are quite good, adequacy situation can be fine as well. Second country we list here is France, and we observe that adequacy risk can be observed if the temperature drops significantly, and the wind conditions doesn't impact that much the adequacy situation. And last country for which we noticed adequacy risk is Italy, combined from the northern and central northern regions. And what we notice here is that the risk exists if the temperatures drop low in all Europe. So you see the points in this slide, which indicates in orange that deficit exists after imports. However, you also see lower points in blue, which imposes that no deficit is experienced. This is linked to the effect that the temperature in the region, and especially in France, affects also the situation in Italy. And therefore, it's once again raising a need of regional cooperation and monitoring of adequacy situation. Said that, and coming back to the recent situation about delayed maintenance in Belgium, it's a good example of the regional coordination. Where a coordination is actually still ongoing on the technical level as well as on political level. So first of all, of course, this study is first example of such technical coordination, and results are seen. Later on, RCs are still monitoring the situation on a weekly basis, and technical information is exchanged and ensure that everyone is updated on the technical level. On the political level as well, electricity coordination group is ensuring that the information would be exchanged with all relevant stakeholders. More in detail, or standing group or let's say a working group on the political level was established in the framework of Multilateral Energy Forum. So they're in a tight contact to coordinate any measures needed. On a political level, here they also involve any relevant stakeholders, meaning representatives from ENTSO-E, regional security coordinators, respective TSOs from each country. And they use electricity coordination platform just to inform everyone on the political level in Europe about the current status and measures foreseen to deal with any potential adequacy risks. So once again, regional coordination is the key, and it is continuously done. And currently, the example of the current recent coordination shows that all the mechanisms are working quite well. By this, I would like just to conclude with the main findings of this winter outlook, electricity winter outlook, and just to wrap up with what is foreseen for the future seasonal outlook. So first of all, the clean energy package discussions are coming to the end, and there's soon going into force, so we have to prepare for the implementation of it. We are working quite intensively, involving all the relevant TSOs to the discussion on the technical level and setting a frame to implement it. Further on, we continuously try to extend coordination the week ahead adequacy performed by regional security coordinators, including the share of technical expertise as well as the data posted by both parties to ensure that the most up-to-date are used in our studies. And last, it's also that, which is linked to the first bullet point, that for us, it's a key focus is to prepare for further steps for seasonal outlook, full probabilistic hourly modeling in a similar way as in midterm adequacy forecast. This should significantly enhance adequacy risk analysis in the future and determine all the potential factors which may impact the adequacy for the coming season. Thank you very much for this, and then I would like to ask Claire just to proceed on.
Thank you very much to all our speakers. We will now break for 5 minutes, just to allow you to send us a few more questions. So we will be back online at 12:35. welcome back. So we've looked at your questions. There is one regarding the difference between, and it's regarding electricity, regarding the difference between probabilistic and deterministic approach. There are some countries that appear in one of the approach and disappear on the other one. So maybe Lucas, you can go back and explain a bit why there are differences.
Sure. So I hope that yes, I see that I managed to go back to the presentation. Indeed, it's a very good question because here we identify a number of countries with the risk in week 3, while in probabilistic assessment results we present only 3 countries. The reason behind this is that under severe conditions, we assume simultaneous severe conditions in all Europe, while in probabilistic assessment we consider a consistent climate data set, which doesn't prove the risk given the realistic, let's say, data set. However, it also has to be noted that some potential imports from connected countries in the east and south are not considered, and this is especially relevant, for instance, countries such as Lithuania and Finland, and also may have an impact for Poland adequacy. So these 2 key factors is that imports from especially from the east are disregarded, as well as the realistic weather pattern is considered in the probabilistic assessment.
Okay, thank you, Lucas. So I'll take another question. I'll read it out loud. Have you done any scenarios on loop flows and the different wind temperature scenarios, and any general congestion analysis on various borders? So maybe on the loop flows, is it Lucas or Alban? Lucas, can you tell us if you consider them or not in your analysis?
Yeah, yes, so in our studies, we consider they had market coupling, and in this case, we consider each our analyzed zone as a copper plate, and we don't consider any, let's say, realistic network in our analysis. So we really assess the generation availability and demand, and if it would be sufficient. However, these loop flows are analyzed closer to real time by the regional security coordinators when they assess the security of the operations, and these anticipations are considered in that phase, and if any remedial actions are needed to avoid them, they are discussed in this time frame.
I can also complement your answer, Lucas, with the fact that we recently released another interesting report on congestions on the European power grid. It's called the Bidding Zone Technical Report, and it's a very detailed study on congestions today and 5 years ahead, 10 years ahead, and it really looks not only at the physical constraints on the grid, but also at the costs related to removing those constraints. So I would really encourage people who are listening and interested in congestions to go back to this report and look in details, because it's really looking at different borders and how they are impacted by congestions. And this may be some answer also to the second question regarding the intraday measures. There is a simulation program to measure the impact of these intraday measures, and maybe also to categorize their approximative costs. So again, for the cost issue, I would refer you to the Bidding Zone Technical Report, but maybe, Lucas, you can explain what sort of intraday measures are covered in the winter outlooks and whatnot.
Yes, so within our study, since we do not consider a network as a physical network with the impedances and all technical details. We do not consider any measures linked to the network, like voltage regulation and so on, or redispatching to increase the NTCs. However, what we do consider is available out of the market measures like generation and DSR, and this there is a results described in the report, which you can find on ENTSO-E website, about sensitivity analysis with these measures, and given the assumption of solidarity of all the TSOs and countries, if those measures would be activated in the region, despite that the adequacy issue could be in the neighboring TSO, actually the risk should be limited for adequacy issues.
There's some more general questions about whether we expect peak demand in Europe this winter to be higher or lower than in previous winters. I don't know if you can answer that.
I can take it. Good afternoon, Alban Joyot. So actually the peak demand is in Europe, in average, is not increasing from 1 year to another. We have, in some countries, we have even stabilization or some very light increase or decrease. So in average, we consider it very stable. We have the latest input for sure of the expected demand. What is a very important trigger is the temperature on this one. So depending on the cold spell events, depending on the temperature going down, this one has a very important impact on the demand, whatever it would be next winter or previous winter.
And there is a general question about the result, actually, of our winter outlooks, about whether there are any winter constraints anywhere in Europe, and what are the key incentives. I think when we do the wrap-up or key takeaways, we will answer these questions. We'll do that in 5 minutes. I do not have any more questions, so maybe we can move on to the conclusion. So just to wrap up and to give you key takeaways for today. So the ENTSO's seasonal outlooks are unique, pan-European system-wide security of supply analysis. The methodologies are continuously improving and cooperation is enhancing. Adequacy assessed in electric system is done under severe condition, gas system under extreme cold events, or in case of disruptions to gas supply routes. And the adequacy situation is continuously monitored, be it in gas or electricity. So I would like to thank you for the attention today. You have contacts here for your additional questions on the slides. Don't hesitate to contact Lucas or Jacques if you have additional questions. And we will continue publishing information during the winter on our websites if necessary. And the slides of this webinar will also be published online very soon. So have a nice day. Bye-bye.